Even before the wedding march played and millions of viewers worldwide witnessed the marriage of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, a real hidden war was brewing behind the scenes of the royal family. This story is full of strange coincidences, secret signals, and subtle but humiliating hints that Elizabeth II allowed herself to direct at her American daughter-in-law. And the deeper we look, the more we understand. This was not just the union of Harry and Meghan. It was a clash of two worlds, Hollywood and the British monarchy. From the very beginning, something went wrong. It would seem that the Queen, wise from decades of diplomacy, should have silently observed her daughter-in-law's antics. But no, Elizabeth II knew how to take revenge in such a way that no one would directly say, "She did it on purpose." From her first steps as Prince Harry's bride, Meghan Markle made it clear to everyone that anything, even the most inadequate actions, could be expected from her. At the same time, it should not be thought that Elizabeth II herself, in response to these antics, was forced to raise her paws up and pretend to be a poor sheep who either sees nothing or understands nothing. In fact, Elizabeth II, in her characteristic diplomatic and restrained manner, almost continuously fought with Meghan Markle. But even a faint echo of this confrontation rarely made it into the official media. However, in particularly significant or most egregious cases, Elizabeth II allowed herself to take special symbolic actions towards Meghan Markle, which could hint in a fairly transparent form not only to experienced court intriguers, but also to ordinary Britons about the Queen's true attitude towards her scandalous daughter-in-law. One such peculiar battle, literally tit for tat, took place between Elizabeth II and Meghan Markle on the eve of Prince Harry's wedding to this former actress from the United States. It all started when Elizabeth II, during a phone conversation, asked Meghan Markle to invite her father, Thomas Markle, to the wedding celebration. The Queen expressed a desire for the bride's father to lead his daughter to the altar in the good old tradition. At this point, Meghan Markle, either according to one royal insider, hung up the phone, or, according to another, refused Elizabeth II in a rather rude manner. In any case, Meghan Markle did not fulfill the request of her future grandmother, and Prince Charles led her to the altar instead of her own father. It is also known that Elizabeth II strongly recommended that Meghan Markle make herself a wedding dress from beige or milky-colored fabric, since she had already been married once. However, Meghan Markle did not listen to the Queen this time either, and sewed herself a wedding dress from dazzling white fabric. In addition, Elizabeth II expressed doubt to Meghan Markle. Traditionally, it should have been understood as an order that such a large number of outsiders from Hollywood should be invited to the royal wedding at Windsor Castle. But Meghan Markle ignored this requirement as well. There were other disagreements as well, but I think that those mentioned are quite enough. But how did Elizabeth II, in response to all these offensive attacks, put Meghan Markle in her place? Elizabeth II allocated a special dark burgundy Rolls-Royce Phantom 4 from the mid-1950s to Meghan Markle and her mother, Doria Ragland, so that they could arrive in it from the Cliveden House Hotel to the wedding ceremony in St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. But why did Elizabeth II choose this particular antique car from all of her 25 personal cars? In addition to them, the Queen also had official state cars. The fact is that the last time this Rolls-Royce was used at an official ceremony was 46 years ago, when in 1972 the same divorced American woman as Meghan Markle, Wallis Simpson, arrived in it for the funeral of her own husband, former King Edward VIII. After her husband's death, Wallis Simpson became dependent on the scammer lawyer assigned to her, almost went bankrupt, and spent the last 14 years of her life in rather cramped circumstances, in a semi-mad state. After all these events, the Royal Rolls-Royce Phantom 4 began to enjoy the worst reputation in the Windsor family, and no one dared to ride in it anymore. It seems to me that a more ominous and transparent hint from the Queen could not be imagined. Elizabeth II also showed a rather subtle, but also very transparent mockery in relation to the tiara that she allocated to Meghan Markle for the wedding. According to royal tradition, the prince's bride had to get married in a family tiara, which Meghan Markle, for obvious reasons, did not have. For this reason, Elizabeth II offered Meghan Markle to choose any of her precious tiaras. Initially, Meghan Markle herself chose one of the most famous royal jewelry, the so-called Vladimir tiara. It also has other names in England. However, Elizabeth II at the very last moment refused Meghan Markle and allocated for her the so-called Bandeau of Mary of Teck. Apparently, Queen Mary of Teck did not like this diamond bandeau, frayed bandeau, bandage, ribbon, at all, because she wore it only once in her life. Elizabeth II herself, to whom this tiara passed by inheritance from her grandmother, never wore it at all. What this was connected with is unknown, but in my opinion, compared to other tiaras of Elizabeth II, Bandeau of Mary of Teck looks too heavy and rough. Thus, Elizabeth II allocated to Meghan Markle the decoration that she herself did not like and which she never wore. No less symbolic moment than the cursed car. Although, of course, later royal biographers came up with far-fetched rational explanations for all these delicate moments. If you were marrying a prince, what would you expect? Well, for example, in terms of housing. A huge mansion somewhere in London, an apartment in Windsor, chambers in another palace. Insiders say that everyone who is only planning to connect their life with members of the royal family is explained very clearly. What, where, and how. But Meghan is not everyone to understand what she is told. After the wedding, the prince and his Cinderella were sent to Nottingham Cottage. Maybe Meghan dreamed of a luxurious house in the style of what they have today in Montecito, but she got a cramped house that disappointed her. This little cottage, as she called it, became not just uncomfortable housing for her, but a sign that she and Harry were in secondary roles in Kensington Palace. It was here that her discontent arose, which resulted in Megxit. And if there is always the last drop that overflows the cup of patience, then there is also the first one. How did a tiny house become the first drop of a big revolt? In 2017, after her engagement to Harry, Meghan moved to Nottingham Cottage, a two-room house on the grounds of Kensington Palace. Harry had lived there since 2013 and was happy, cozy, quiet, near his brother. But Meghan, accustomed to the expanse of Los Angeles, looked at the cottage and gasped. In their series on Netflix, she recalled, "Kensington Palace, it sounds like a palace, but this? Just a house in the garden." Oprah Winfrey, looking in on them, grunted, "And you really live here?" Netflix. It was said as if she had caught the couple in a tool shed and could not believe that they had settled in this structure. For Meghan, the cottage was not just cramped. As Tom Quinn wrote in the book Yes, Ma'am, she saw a hint in it. Harry, the spare prince, is not as important as William. While she and Harry were huddling in two rooms, William and Kate lived in a huge apartment 1A right in the palace with a lot of servants. Meghan immediately realized that Harry was not the center of attention, Quinn noted. Her view from the outside, as an actress accustomed to freedom, highlighted this injustice, and she was not going to be silent. Somehow late, she highlighted this injustice, and what is very strange, she believed that she could change something. Life in the cottage quickly showed Meghan that the royal system is not Hollywood. She wanted to keep everything under control, from meetings to the details in the work of the team. But her style, fast, direct, arrogant, and aggressive, did not suit everyone. One of the employees said that Meghan could be tough and bombard with letters at 5 in the morning. Well, you can write letters at any moment, as the thought came to mind. But demanding an immediate answer in non-working hours is somehow too much for a Hollywood starlet. For her, it was a normal pace, but for palace workers, stress. By 2017, rumors of tension had reached William. Robert Lacey in Battle of Brothers writes that he flew into a rage after learning about the complaints about Meghan. Assistant Jason Knopf collected a dossier. 2 assistants left. Someone spoke about a toxic atmosphere and fear of meeting with her. Meghan denied bullying, calling it an attack on her. She, of course, believed that she was the victim here, the wife of the spare who was attacked by employees, whom she only reproached for unprofessionalism. William, for whom the staff is like family, could not restrain himself. He called Harry, but he stood up for his wife, and it came to a quarrel. Lacey notes Harry hung up the phone, and William rushed to the cottage to sort things out. Well, you already know. It's cramped there. Therefore, from conversations, the brothers quickly moved on to a fight, and Harry got it. He himself complained in an interview he even fell to the floor, where the dog bowl was standing. Meghan, unlike Harry, saw royal life without filters. She immediately noticed that Harry, as a spare heir, was always in the shadow of William. Quinn writes, Harry didn't particularly dwell on this until Meghan showed him what it looks like from the outside. She daily hammered in, Harry deserves more than secondary roles. This view became fuel for their discontent with the system that kept them in check. By 2018, during a tour of Australia, Meghan, who was already pregnant with Archie, began to be burdened by royal affairs. Tina Brown in the Palace Papers notes that she couldn't stand the endless ceremonies. She wanted her own projects, like helping women, and not just waving to the crowd. One of the employees recalled, she didn't understand why she should stand and smile at the opera. Meghan dreamed of something more, but the palace expected her to obey. Nottingham Cottage was not just a home for Meghan. It became a symbol of everything that infuriated her. Cramped conditions, rules, Harry's secondary role. She and Harry wanted an apartment in Windsor, but received Frogmore Cottage, which also did not live up to expectations. Even the expensive renovation with expensive eco-friendly paints did not help. Clashes with staff and quarrels with William added fuel to the fire. In January 2020, they said, enough, announcing their departure from royal affairs and moving to North America. Megxit thundered around the world, but for Meghan, it was a step towards freedom. Then it seemed that the world was open, and now you can do whatever you want. And what did she want? Mostly to monetize her new position. In Montecito, they launched Archewell and shot a series for Netflix where Meghan told her truth. But the accusations of bullying did not subside. In 2024, the Sunday Times wrote about how she allegedly reprimanded the florist for a post on social networks, and Vanity Fair mentioned employees who felt crushed. But there were also defenders. Jane Marie, who worked on Archewell Audio, called Meghan warm and sincere, which is surprising from a current employee, and some received gifts from her: cosmetics, dog leashes, muffins, and coffee. Yes, the Duchess is very generous, if you didn't know.